Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. Greetings, Michael. Great to see you.
Likewise.
Happy 2025. It's a new year, and this is our very first community conversation for the year. So I'm thrilled to be kicking it off with you and really looking forward to this session because there's so much great information. If you are joining us, you are welcome to use the chat on the side. This is a StreamYard platform, which has a chat. We don't see your faces, unfortunately, but you can certainly ask questions and chime in. If you're here with us today, I'd love to hear where you're coming from. And if you do mention in the chat, that will pop up and I will see it so I can see that you're here. So today, our special guest is Michael Jordan, the other Michael Jordan, Michael J. Jordan.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, hello. And you are many things. Global Strategic Communications Advisor. You're an author of the Global Communications Toolkit. You are a career coach and a former foreign correspondent, having lived all over the world. You are also a visiting professor at the International Journalism School and the founder of the MJ Method, and you have your website and all that great content that people can learn more if you check out the website. And today we are here to talk about proving your impact, and you're going to share some skills and strategies and talk about what we have coming up in about a week or so with more training opportunities and learning opportunities. And so I would love for you just to give us a high-level background of your journey and how you ended up to where you are today, and so people can really understand your expertise and your experience and how we're going to be able to apply that to our own work today.
Great. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity, Brita. I mean, one thing that I'm not is a fashion industry expert per se, but what I will do today is one of my new passions actually is focusing on fashion sustainability, what I call sustainability storytelling, but applying one of my ongoing professional passions, which is to help organizations, companies, and individuals prove their impact. Okay, and I'll explain now what I mean by that and how exactly to do it. Also, why it's so important. Okay, so just to let you know that much of what I talk about is derived from my own background, which is primarily for 20 years, I was a foreign correspondent, a freelance foreign correspondent, which is also key because I also had to sell my ideas and persuade audiences and to tell stories from over here for audiences over there, okay, which is what I'll be talking about today for fashion brands, fashion designers, and really anyone working for themselves or for organizations, is how to tell their own story, but not just any story, what I call strategic storytelling, which is evidence-driven storytelling to prove a couple points. Prove that they are, for any company or organization or individuals, to prove two main points. First of all, that they are who exactly, that you are exactly who you say you are, doing what exactly you claim to be doing. But also, even more importantly, that you are as good as you claim to be, as impactful as you claim to be. Or in the case of fashion brands and designers, that you are as conscious as you claim to be, as ethical, eco-friendly, even vegan. Okay, many companies nowadays are claiming these things. Okay, I'm not saying that they're not telling the truth, but we have to recognize that, as all of you know, every day we're being bombarded by news and information and images. And as we all know nowadays, that much of what we are being bombarded with is misinformation, disinformation, fake news. Okay. Out and out lying, if not exaggeration, okay? And so we all need to develop sharper skills of media literacy in terms of, and critical thinking skills in terms of how we consume content, okay? Now, this session today is not about how we consume content or how we filter out what's real, what's not real, but empathetically, and this is one of the skills I often talk about, empathetically is then to imagine our audience and if they're consuming if we're fortunate that they're going to consume our content through our website, through our social media channels, through our PowerPoint presentation, pitch decks, whatever, that how to persuade them, as I said, that we are who we say we are, actually doing what we're doing. Because anyone, as you know, could wake up today and create a fake profile, create a fake
Mhm.
website, okay? Luring in individuals, whether they be consumers, clients, potential partners, or whomever, right? So then actually what this is about, this session today is big picture brand building, and also how to create not just effective content, but as I often say nowadays, persuasive content, okay? And the most important way to do that persuasively is with what I call concrete, credible, meaning so
Mhm.
specific, concrete, credible, meaning believable, and even verifiable content. Verifiable with one of my favorite techniques is with hyperlink. Okay, so that
Mhm.
whatever we say, we're going to make an effort to prove to our audience that what we say is true. Okay, anything you want to add to that,
Yeah,
Bridget? I don't want to just
I'll just
lecture.
say I will
Yeah,
add, and please, everyone,
please.
feel free to pop in questions at any point. This is really to have a conversation, and so we'd love to hear from you, and please throw out any questions as we go. When I met you was at one of our Inside Fashion Design events during New York Fashion Week, and it was kind of a social, and we brought in a couple featured guests all around sustainability and consciousness and fashion. I think we had 4 or 5 speakers, wonderful, successful people in the industry. And then we just met that night. And then afterwards, I think there was a message or a LinkedIn message or something that said, the event was great, but how do all these folks prove, they gave great information, but how do you prove what they're really doing? And so that's when I started giving it some deeper thought and realizing as much as we share and as much as we post on LinkedIn of what we're doing, really how am I even proving with my own business and trying to share with others that what I'm doing is truly, what I say I'm doing, or how do I take it further to really create that story and build the content that explains it and shows much deeper. So I was really excited when you kind of challenged me a little bit. You're like, how are you proving, or how are these guests how do we know they're doing what they say they're doing? So
Yes,
that was in
yes,
September, and over the course of the next couple months, you and I have connected and talked further and really come up with this idea of how we can share this with, like you said, not only fashion people, but anyone
that's
that's
right.
interested in really proving their impact. So,
That's right.
so that's how that kind of came about.
Yeah.
And I've been learning from you ever since. And so I'm excited to dive into
Well,
your method and expertise and tips and things that people could take away.
yeah, thank you, Brita. Just to follow up on your point as to how we met. And first of all, I should apologize. I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, as we speak, representing a Chinese client, and so I'm in a hotel with exhibitions going on. I'm in the hallway, so forgive the
You're
people
not
walking
not
by.
partying and gambling all night.
No, no, I won't lose a single nickel in this city. I promise you.
Yeah.
But going back to that night, that was a perfect example, okay? Because that night, that New York Fashion Week event, okay, you had 4 or 5 very impressive speakers, okay, and it was a conscious fashion event, okay, right? And I'm sitting there as part of the target audience. Okay, when you
Mhm.
think through, we have to think through. We can't be thinking in such a self-absorbed way about here's what I want to say about my brand on my website, our social media channels, me, us. We have to think about our target audience and how that audience is consuming our messages, our content,
Mhm.
whether there's evidence to prove it or not. Okay, consuming our stories, how persuasive and impactful, humanizing are our stories. So that night, as I was sitting and listening to your speakers, okay, many in the audience, well, oh, that's wonderful what you're doing
Mhm.
with your brand. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm,
Yahoo.
I'm, yes. Okay. Right. Happy
Mhm.
words, lofty rhetoric about we're doing this, we're striving for that, we're aiming for that. Okay. Aspirational language. Okay. And it's important to know One thing I've learned from now being fortunate enough to have lived and worked on four continents as a foreign correspondent, as a visiting professor of international journalism, and as a global communications consultant in Europe, Southern Africa, then in China over the past 20 years, is there basically, I want all of you to know that there are basically two kinds of audiences out there, okay? One, with all due respect, they're sheep-like, okay? They will listen to some charismatic speaker, charismatic leader, okay? It could be a president. It could be an iPhone maker. It could be the corner pizzeria that says New York's best pizza, okay? And they may say, hey, let's go to that pizza place. It's the best in New
It's the
York. Or
best.
let's buy this. Or they said this iPhone is the best product out there. Let's buy it, okay? Those are sheep-like followers, okay? Largely non-critical thinkers. They may be our family members and our friends. We may love them, but they may be following blindly, okay, right? Or there's a second our audience, which are the more critical thinking consumers, okay, of content. Critical thinking meaning that they're not going to simply believe our words, hook, line, and sinker, okay? They're going to expect, even demand more. They're going to demand skepticism. It's marked by skepticism, okay? They're going to demand, they're going to stroke their chin thoughtfully and say, prove to me what you're saying is true. According to whom are you New York City's finest pizza? Or according to whom are you the best iPhone? Or according to whom are you truly a conscious fashion brand or an ethical designer? Okay, right? I'm not going to just tolerate your words, right? So that night, and I hadn't met you yet, right? But as I was listening, just in my mind, as a relatively smart but skeptical consumer, I thought, prove it to me. Prove your impact. Prove that you're truly a conscious brand. And so then I did approach you afterwards saying, I hear some of these speakers who absolutely, I'm not saying they're liars. They mean well. But as I say, you need to work harder, intellectually speaking, to persuade that target audience. And why does that target audience matter? Because for our businesses, our industries, okay, these may be watchdog agencies, government agencies, they may be partners, investors, okay? They're not going to just blindly give their support or partner with us, okay? Consumers, many of them are increasingly conscious and aware and demanding that their products are consciously produced, ethically produced, doing no harm to people or the planet or to animals, okay? And they won't just tolerate our words saying, trust us, believe us, we're doing this consciously and ethically, okay? So that's the focus of much of my work today with various clients, is to encourage these brands and organizations to up their game, okay? Which is the need to, it's one thing to identify what you're doing, but it's another thing to actually prove that you're doing it. And the most important way, I don't mind repeating my mantra of concrete, credible, even verifiable evidence, okay? Say whatever you want. Journalistically, we used to say this, and I used to preach it to my students as well. Say whatever you want, publish whatever you want, but back it up with facts, back it up with evidence, okay? Because evidence, when you have a skeptical mind, a skeptical audience, as I've learned, there are two ways to persuade that skeptical audience, okay? If we have any hope, if they're skeptical but open-minded, okay? There's a difference between a skeptical but open-minded audience, like, okay, I'm open to being persuaded, versus a skeptical but closed-minded audience. They've already decided they're not going to believe anything we say, and unfortunately, we don't want to waste our breath with them, okay? We're hoping for skeptical but open-minded to being persuaded, right? And so if we have the only hope that we have, the only chance to persuade that open but that skeptical but open-minded audience is with that credible evidence. And as I often say, even like a lawyerly argument, as if we were in a courtroom as a lawyer with a judge and a jury going in there.
Prove it.
Right. We wouldn't just say, Your Honor, my client is innocent. What? You need evidence to prove
Yeah.
that? Yes. Then you would say, Your Honor, my client is innocent. Here's Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C. Concrete, credible evidence to persuade a judge and jury. Okay. And we can
Yeah.
all do that. Rita can do that. I can do that. I also need to do that to prove whether I'm any good at what I do. Okay. And so whether I'm good at what, yes. And so the one way I said two approaches. One is the concrete, credible evidence can touch the mind of a skeptic. The second technique is humanizing content, okay, to
Mhm.
bring to life what you're really doing, but even to put people at the center of our content, okay? Because humanizing and even highlighting our shared humanity, let's say, of the communities we're working with, the workers we're working with. Okay, let's say if we claim that we're working with organic cotton from Uzbekistan, okay,
Mhm.
or a workshop in Kenya, okay, we can say whatever we want, and some people will believe us. Oh, that's so nice that they're doing
Mhm.
such good things to provide jobs, to provide revenue, to help pull people out of break the cycle of poverty. Okay, somewhere in
Mhm.
the world, right?
Yeah.
But for certain audiences, they're going to demand that sort of concrete, credible evidence on the
Yeah.
one hand, but also to humanize, to really tell the story of the people involved with your operation, the ones who are really the backbone and who are truly impacted by the work that you're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's
go ahead, Brita. I'll give you another
wonderful.
chance.
Well,
Great.
that's near and dear to my heart is telling the stories of the makers behind, as a creative and a designer, I'm always wanting to hear the story of who is making it. And it could be an emerging, hot happening designer that's today, or it could be an artisan in Haiti, but telling those stories and getting behind it is what I love to do. And so combining this with the facts and coming up with content that really further dives into their background and showing the reality of it is
Hmm.
I think missing
Hmm.
oftentimes. And so
Hmm.
so what you're talking about is I think so important. And I'll just make a quick comment that normally our little community conversations are about 30 minutes, so people can pop in kind of on a lunch break or coffee break.
Hmm.
Today is going to go a little bit longer. Michael has some slides to share with us that will
Hmm.
explain his method and give us some key points
Hmm.
that you can take away today. And then we'll
Hmm.
also talk about the upcoming workshop
Hmm.
to share with you. And then a couple, maybe sharing a couple of screens for examples.
Hmm.
I'm going to do my best with this platform and switching the screen to slides and whatnot. So
Yes.
I'll give it my best shot.
Great.
And would you like to dive into the slides first?
Sure. 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 Sure.
Okay.
So basic. No, not this one. Not this one. But the
Uh,
um, I have. How about the four-step method? Okay.
is that this?
No,
No.
the six that I sent before. Do you have those? The six
Okay,
more
these
earlier?
might be all together. So let me
Ah,
flip
yes, yes, yes. Ah, stay,
up.
stay here. Stay here for a
This
second.
one?
No, the one previous to that.
There we
Okay.
go. Okay,
So
is
first of
that
all,
showing? You can all see? Okay.
first of all, to share what I immodestly call the Jordan four-step formula. Okay. And first of all, the very first step that I always take, that I always encourage all my clients to take, is first of all to also visualize who exactly our target audience is. With communications, there's a huge difference between just communicating whatever I want to say. Okay, again, in a self-absorbed sort of way. Here's what we want to write about or put out there, versus, well, wait a, the first step is consider your audience. Okay, who exactly is your target audience? Why are they your audience? What are they looking for from you as a consumer of information? Okay, why are they looking for that from us? Again, it could be that they're looking for companies that are conscious, ethical, that sort of thing, right? So we have to visualize who exactly our target audience is first, or else we're blindly firing off our messages, our content into the darkness without truly visualizing who our audience is and why. And again, for you, it could be, hey, Michael, we've got government watchdog agencies monitoring what we're doing, okay? because whether it could be a Securities and Exchange Commission or whomever may be. It could be a government agency. It could be partners. Could be investors thinking through. Okay, it could be donors. Could be customers, clients, and other potential partners, right? To visualize who they are and why they would be consuming our content, okay? Now, the next three steps, once we visualize that, okay, then we think through, okay, what exactly do we want to say? What points, what arguments, okay, talking points, selling points, what exactly do we want to say, okay? But more than that, if you look at step number 3, it's one thing to think through what we want to say. It's another thing, step number 3 is the critical thinking, which is why exactly do we want to say that? Why exactly make this argument? Why exactly those talking points? So then in our own mind, we have to justify and defend. I want to say this because we should say that because, comma, because. Whenever I'm always listening for the because word, because that means that we're getting deeper with the critical thinking skills. And now if you look at the filter and the fine print there, and this will be recorded so you could rewatch if you like, okay? Now here's the empathy skill, which is imagining ourselves in the shoes of our target audience, okay? That why should our audience, it's one thing that we want to say this because, but why should our audience, why should it resonate with them? Okay, why should it hit the target? Because we've thought through who they are and what are they looking for. So if they're looking for certain messages about our consciousness, our ethics, whether it's a vegan product, eco-friendly, whatever it is. Okay, so we have to be able to then make that argument. My audience, who is XYZ, is looking for ABC sort of messages and content. So we should, in response, we're looking to deliver or present XYZ content which contains what they're looking for. We need to match up to be truly effective and impactful with our communications. That's why I call it strategic communications and even strategic storytelling, okay? And once we've come up with this airtight, bulletproof argument for why these talking points, why this argument, why this content, whatever it may be, why this story, then the fourth step is the how, okay? How exactly do we want to deliver these messages or these talking points, these selling points, okay? With what sort of evidence, what sort of research, what sort of details, what sort of images, photos, stories, anecdotes, okay? To really maps, okay? It could be anything, whatever it is, like, okay, the next step is then how to bring that to life, okay? Visually and in terms of an argument, as a lawyerly argument, as I said, okay? If you could go back to another screen is the intersection of self-interest. By the way, do you have any questions, Britta, about the four-step? Yeah, right here, please.
Right here. No, we hear this over and over again, what's your why and your how?
Yeah.
I think the challenge is, if you're not a writer or you're not a marketer, really communicating that message and figuring out how to get the message across without having that, like in your mind, you might have a very easy, oh yeah, I'm doing this because of this, or I'm doing it because of that. But getting it out there in a way that really resonates with people and where they understand it and it's a good written piece is the hard part. So that's why we have you. So
the hard part. That's
yeah,
right.
It's
That's
yeah,
right. It's more than
that.
Right. And I'll talk in a couple of minutes about how to get started, how you can get started. Okay. But I want to share this graphic, this Venn diagram that I created for myself many years ago as a young reporter. Okay. Because as a young reporter, I was thinking through, hey, all I want to do is I want to sell stories, not just produce stories and sell stories, but I also want newspaper clients to send me to different countries. I want them to not only pay me for stories, but actually pay for me to travel to produce the stories as a young freelance foreign correspondent, okay? And I realized I couldn't just think about me. I have to think about the editor's self-interest, okay? The publication's self-interest. Why would they even agree? Who are they? What are they looking for and why, okay? How can I give them what they want and why, okay, that sort of thing, thinking through. So then I created this little Venn diagram of my self-interest and the editor's self-interest, okay? And now I apply that to clients and organizations. Our self-interest, for example, and again, you could fill in your own Venn diagram here, okay? But on the left hand side, it's overcome audience skepticism, prove we are who we say we are, prove we do what we say we do, prove our impact and or results, avoid the greenwashing accusation. We know nowadays greenwashing, for those of you who may not know, there are companies or organizations throwing money at the problem. Hey, we're eco-friendly, but maybe they don't truly have the evidence to prove that they are. So then they're accused of greenwashing, like whitewashing, but with an environmental tinge to it. Okay, so greenwashing. So for you as a fashion brand, fashion designer, the last thing you would want is to be accused of greenwashing. Okay, that you're BSing somehow, that you're lying, right? So prove our trustworthiness. Hey, one of the major challenges, and I'm working with Chinese clients who may say, we need to prove that we are a trustworthy partner. So then I'm also suggesting the need for partner stories, strategic storytelling about your partnerships to bring to life how and why your partner came across you and learn to trust you step by step, even showing how the sausage is made of a partnership. First, we did this, then we did that, then we did that, to tell the story of how trust was built. Okay. Or last point, as you say, attract more partners, enhance brand reputation. That's for each company or individual to decide for themselves. But then we look at the audience self-interest. Okay. For example, supporting brands that do no harm to people, planet, and animals. They may want to partner with conscious, ethical, eco-friendly, etc. brands. They may have a need. If they are our investors or our partners, they may have a need to publicly prove to their investors, stakeholders, watchdogs, media, and others that we support impactful brands, okay? Ultimately, to create a win-win for both sides. But then you see that there is an intersection between the two, okay? Some overlap in self-interest, which is, can we push the right button? If so, how? And if you look at the bottom of the screen, to reiterate that I believe it's only through concrete, credible, verifiable evidence can we persuade a skeptic, okay? And then humanizing, evidence-driven, what I call impact stories, can help us achieve that goal, okay?
Wonderful.
So there's that, okay? And I know we're running late, but we could look at what other screens do you have there?
Let's see. I've got for you starting from the beginning, like this one, and then that guy.
The fork in the road. The fork in the road.
Okay.
You know what? Let me take a quick quick detour here. Okay, which is, I can imagine that for those of you who are listening, those of you who may be buying in, maybe nodding your head in agreement. Okay, as far as what I'm suggesting for you, maybe, yeah, it can be quite overwhelming. Maybe like, okay, how to get started, okay? And I've thought through, even I don't have the slide here, but how you can get started, which is, let's say you have a smaller operation that you've launched, and quite altruistically, idealistically, you're thinking, hey, we want to produce a truly sustainable product, okay? That's conscious, that's ethical, and all that, eco-friendly and all that, right? But now let's think through. Okay, I say that your first step, let's gather around a conference room table. Let's have a team-wide meeting and discuss, first of all, what is our definition of impact? Okay, what sort of impact are we ultimately seeking with our product, with our service? Okay, let's be in agreement, all on the same page, that this is what we're aiming for in terms of impact. Okay, now we're in agreement. This is what we're hoping to achieve, okay? Now, maybe it's not a new organization. Maybe you've been around for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, okay? In which case you should have some evidence there of having done some good, okay? So it's one thing to identify what is our own impact that we're aiming for or that we've already achieved. Next is, okay, if we agree on this, then how about what would evidence look like? Evidence of that impact, okay? So, for example, I'll give an example soon. But if you're saying that we have a social impact, social component, or we're working with disadvantaged, marginalized communities, let's say, okay, how do we identify some positive impact that we're already having with them, that we've created a win-win with our partners in the field, okay, or with partners providing us with certain partners along our supply chain are benefiting? What would evidence of that win-win of a successful partnership look like? Okay. And if we start to identify the evidence, okay, now how do we unearth that evidence? Okay. Now we're doing detective work. Okay.
Mhm.
Something happened here. How to identify what's gone on? How do we unearth it, bring it to light? And now, then the next step is in what form? Okay. Of course, some larger companies will have an annual environmental impact report or social impact report, a dry report for certain partners, certain agencies to read and consume. But if we're talking about ordinary consumers, and clients,
Mhm.
customers, we could think through like, hey, we want some nice, colorful stories about the communities we work with, the individuals who are the backbone of our organization, that sort of thing, to bring to light how we're positively impacting them. Okay. And how about we switch to, I know I'm doing a lot of talking, but maybe it's time to switch from the abstract to a real life example. Okay, Brito, would you show the website for Bebe Ravi, please?
Let me make sure I can do that.
Yes.
This
Now
one.
I'm now,
Can you see
yes,
it?
thank you.
Okay.
Yes, I see it at least. Okay.
Okay.
Now I'm a global communications advisor for several African organizations. Okay, I lived in Southern Africa in the tiny African kingdom of Lesotho for 4 years. Okay, that's where I branched from journalism into global communications. Specifically, Lesotho suffers from the world's second highest rate of HIV infection. So then I began working for various international and local organizations that were focused on HIV and other health issues, how to bring to light, how to unearth evidence of their impact supporting. For example, I worked on a project on HIV orphans, which was funded by an American NGO. They were under pressure to prove that their 5-year program had actually grown some roots. Okay.
Mhm.
And that if they were to leave, it wouldn't just be torn out by the roots, but that was sustainable. Okay. And so they hired me to start to tell these stories of impact. Okay. But this on the screen is more fashion specific. Okay. So I'm global communications advisor to a Kenyan social enterprise called Bebe Ravi. Okay. And the founder, Siamanda Chege. Okay.
Mhm.
This is a fashion manufacturing company. Maybe you can show the next screen to show what they produce. Primarily children's clothing. Okay.
Can you see that?
Not yet.
Not
No.
yet. Okay, let me
But
switch.
but as you're doing that, what makes this a social enterprise? It is a for-profit company, okay? But they're working with provincial, poorer Kenyan women, many of whom are HIV widows, okay? Single mothers, okay, who are the sole breadwinners for their family, for their children, okay? So they have taught them these skills to crochet. You see some of the clothing that they produce, and then Siamanda sells them in New York, okay?
Mhm.
So, however, it's a social enterprise, okay? So there's that social impact component. And if you look at the third screen, okay, if you look at the third screen, then they have a mission page, okay, where then it describes who our women are. This is not an ordinary company, it's a social enterprise, right? So, one thing we're doing, look, I'm a skeptical audience, okay? And as I've advised Siamanda, is there's their mission possible. Okay, that's, you see some of the women there stitching, knitting, crocheting. Okay, and then it explains their broader mission. Okay, and guess what? With all due respect to Bebe Ravi and to the founder, Siamanda Chege. These are just words. They're just words, okay? Some people may read those and say, oh, I'm touched. Isn't that wonderful? Okay? But we don't truly know that this company has had positive impact with the women on the ground. For all we know, they may be paying them pennies, exploiting them, greenwashing by saying they're doing something noble, but there's no real evidence to prove that. Okay? In this situation, though, with Siamanda's guidance, we are planning a trip to the workshop, to the community, to bring to life how the sausage is made, okay? And to bring to life the women, okay, and the impact that working for this company, working for this organization has had on them. It's not just, again, many of them HIV widows raising children on their own in a very difficult situation, economic situation, right? Not only is the company providing them with steady income, right, but step by step enabling their kids now being able to buy shoes for their children, school bags, school uniforms, okay, meals, 3 regular meals a day, all these things that many of us may take for granted. Now these women, step by step, are able to do that for their children. And guess what? Big picture. Why does that matter? Because big picture, on an individual level, not only are they able to raise the standard of living, the quality of life for their family, but big picture helps to break the cycle of poverty. Because as we interview these women, as Siamanda has told us, and that we will bring to light in a series of stories, even videos, okay? They'll talk about how now that they're able to pay for their kids to go to school, suddenly women like this have dreams to send their kids to university. And then they won't have to work in the fields or work in a workshop, okay? But maybe have a nice white collar air conditioned job. And what does that do? That breaks the cycle of poverty. But what Siamanda and other organizations like this need is evidence, concrete, credible evidence to prove that to her partners, investors, donors, and others. And by the way, she also has an orphanage that's connected to this social enterprise with 30 orphans. Okay. And again, to show that what kind of impact are you having on the kids? Okay. Again, a roof over their heads, 3 square meals, decent education, right? And then to enable them to go off to university. Siamanda just told me that one of her boys graduating from the orphanage has now graduated from nursing school. Okay. So I'm hearing that and I'm thinking, that's a story. And that's not just a story, that's a strategic story. That's a piece of evidence, recognizing that an individual story becomes a piece of concrete, credible, and persuasive evidence.
Yeah. I envision, the kid standing there with his diploma and a photo and, congratulations, he made it through university and now he's going to go on to this job. And, that's just heartwarming story that, like, that alone, just having a nice image and a little blurb about him is that story that is really humanizes it, like you were saying.
That's right. And just to enable you to see how to produce such a story, can you go back to the slide with the fork in the road?
There we go.
Okay.
Can I
MJ,
throw in?
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to throw in a thought I had is, you don't need to travel the world and go to these far off places and you might aspire to, and you might be working with, say, a group of artisans somewhere across the globe. But somebody kind of gave me a really good example is, like, if you're a small brand, independent designer, look at the United Nations SDG goals and pick one. Maybe you have a love for the ocean. So there's one about water and the ocean, or one is, education, or, pick one thing.
Children's rights. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Health.
So you don't have to tackle this huge humanitarian effort. You can just build your brand and, start telling the story about what's near and dear to your heart. And if it's water and, ocean life, that could kind of be your thing that you start developing and determining, okay, are you donating some money from sales to that? And then start showing that as your impact and proving. And so I think sometimes for a lot of us, it feels so overwhelming because it's such a huge task to change the system of the fashion industry. But if we all just kind of take those baby steps and pick one thing that we're striving for and just start steering in that direction, and you can be transparent. You could say, I'm not using eco-friendly fabric, but I'm using dead stock, or I'm using
Mm,
leftovers that I thrift, or,
mm,
it could be a small component of your business, and you
that's
could
right.
still make that same impact. So
That's right. You're
just
right.
wanted to
And
share that
anyone
thought.
listening in, anyone listening into this now or in the future, this recording will be posted online and all that. Yeah, I would not want to overwhelm anyone. Okay, because again, I myself am embracing these same skills with my own operation, my own global
Mm,
communication consultancy. Britta, I admire you because you're creating your own operation. Siamanda is as well. That we're all trying to build step by step. But what I would say is, you just heard Britta say, yes, choose a cause that you care about, may and that reflects your values and the values of
mm,
your
mm,
organization, of your product, but you better back it up with some facts, with some
yeah,
evidence, or you'll be called out. Okay.
yeah.
So that's why I'm also encouraging, especially those of you who may be fashion students or recent graduates at the start of your career, is to be thinking of, okay, here's my product, my service, but also to be thinking about how can I communicate these things simultaneously. Okay.
Mhm,
Strategically, to prove that I'm doing what I claim to be doing. Okay, that's where it comes, the strategic communications. It's never too late to start. If you say, oh, I've already been doing it for 5 years, then
mhm,
look back and okay, we have to prove that we've already had impact, and here's where we go from here. Okay.
mhm,
But now, just in terms of even the content, okay, you see this, I call this the fork in the road. And when I lived in Southern Africa, and when I was interviewing for that very important gig on HIV orphans and HIV orphan caregivers, okay, I went out there, and like Brita said, you don't have to travel to Africa or to Asia to tell these stories. At home in your pajamas, okay,
mhm,
what it does require is an interview, okay, to speak with the people, your people on the front lines. Okay. It could be a partner company, organization, and an investor, a donor. It could be the people actually creating your product, anyone along the supply chain. Okay. Any of your stakeholders, let's say. Okay. And so when I was in Southern Africa and interviewing HIV orphans and their caregivers, I came up with this formula. I realized that it's somehow a fork in the road. And let me explain briefly. It's essentially a before and after story. Before,
mhm,
if you look at the bottom of the fork, describing what their life was like or what the
mhm,
situation was like before. Okay. And it's not enough to say, oh, what was your life like before? Oh, it was very hard. What does
mhm,
hard mean? How hard was it? I've never been to where you are. I've never been in your community, in your life, whatever it may be. Please describe in some detail. Okay. To draw it out. Now we have to become interviewers and storytellers of our own. Okay. Which is to draw out, how hard was it? My life was so hard. But let's say Siamanda's Kenyan women. Siamanda herself is Kenyan, so she was inspired to go back to her homeland, her home province, and to make a difference in their lives, right? So she may know what the situation is, but she needs to create this content for her target audience, right? So for women to describe, for us to lead them through the process of describing, how hard was your life? For example,
mhm,
enough food, enough medication, could you send your kids to school or not? Whatever, you're painting a picture. As I say, paint a picture with words, but draw it out of your subject. Okay.
mhm,
So they describe what it was like before. Then they're living their life. You see the arrow going upward, okay? And suddenly there's a knock on the door, okay? A virtual knock, of a very much real knock. That's the intervention. Okay, let's say the women in Nakuru, Kenya, okay, where Siamanda's workshop is, suddenly hear about a workshop, a training, an
mhm,
opportunity to work, a regular, decent paying job, okay, stable job, right? Now, the woman could have been selling corn on the street corner before, okay? Out in the fields, bent over, grueling work in the hot sun, okay?
Mm,
And suddenly she hears, wait a minute, I can learn certain skills, I can be trained. She could have gone to the left. She could have ignored this. No thanks. I don't believe them. I don't trust them. I'm fine. I'm stubborn. I'm doing it myself. Okay.
mhm,
And you can even just ask them, what would your life have been like if you had never come forward for this training, for this opportunity?
mhm,
Oh, my life would continue to be hard. My kids would be barefoot miles from a school, unable to, or even ashamed to go to school because they don't have books, book bag, that sort of thing, school uniform. Instead, they responded to this knock on the door, to the intervention. And we ask, why did you? Why did you come forward for this opportunity? Okay, right? And then they explain emotive language, something meaningful, humanizing, why exactly they did what they did. Okay. And then I say they're living a life, then a knock on a door, the intervention described the intervention. And now suddenly they're off on the right path, okay, in the right side direction. And now step by step, we can illuminate, bring light onto the gradual influence and even the impact. So then they train me. Then I earned my first salary and my second, third salary. And then I was able to buy this. I was able to
mhm,
buy that. And then suddenly, step by step, this is not just storytelling, but strategic storytelling with the goal of I want to show the impact of this woman working for this company, this social
mhm.
enterprise. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. And that is the fork in the road. That's what I learned with the HIV orphans that they were living their lives, or the caregivers. Then there's an American NGO coming to offer certain skills, certain training, certain assistance, right? And then step by step to prove in storytelling form. Okay. And as I often say, by the way, as I've said to Siamanda, one story is not enough. One story could be a one off, an aberration. Here's an example of someone we've helped or one of our partners, right? Two could be a coincidence. Okay, let's say a lightning strike.
Mm,
Once you look out the window, whoa, lightning, huh? That's something. Happens twice, now over there. Wait a minute, is something going on or is it just a coincidence? When there's a third, as we say journalistically,
right.
three makes for a pattern or a
Yeah.
trend. Okay, and again, even in a court of law, three pieces of evidence, that's something. Okay. And so then I say there should be at least three such impact stories, because now that's a body of evidence that becomes even more persuasive. Even your skeptical audience would be, that you're delivering that message of it's not just one. We're starting to have impact within this community. Okay. These are three of 300 women. Okay. And I even tell the story. Can you go to the one slide with the diamond, please? There's a diamond and an oblong. That one right
That
there.
one.
Okay,
Okay.
that's one right. Now I also share in my trainings and my workshops the difference between what I call a simple feature. If you look on the left hand side of the screen, that's three of those women, just three of their stories. Oh, isn't that nice? Three women, but there are 300 working for Siamanda's organization, right? And so if you look over to the right, I've come up with this method where you identify the symbolism within each person's story. So if we interview Mary, okay, yeah, sure, you can tell Mary's story, okay? But then I say, what does Mary's story represent? Is Mary truly unique, or is she one of others, one of many, dozens, hundreds, thousands, okay? And then Siamanda may say, actually, yeah, she's one of 300 with a similar story, okay?
Mhm,
So then if you look at that diamond, you open with Mary's story, but then you recognize her symbolism and you connect dots to the broader pattern or trend, which is, and Mary's not alone. You open
mhm,
with Mary's story, but then you have that line, but Mary's not alone. She's one of 300 women, many of whom are HIV widows in Nakuru, in provincial Kenya, Nakuru, Kenya, who have been trained and now working for this social enterprise, and who's now are now able to make a difference in the lives of their families, and even gradually, if we can prove it, even breaking this cycle of poverty for their families, for their communities. Okay, something sustainable. Okay, so that's the difference between, because you may say, Michael, do we have to tell 300 stories? No, no. There's a certain skill to recognizing the symbolism within each person's story, within each person's experience, and then to identify that, and then to tell the story about them as a symbolic example. You see what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
how?
Yes. Yeah.
You
How
have to
what?
teach us how to do all of this. So, to just observe time,
Yes.
could we talk about your workshop? And
Sure. What
so
a coincidence.
yeah, as you can
Yes.
all, I'm sure you're all hearing and seeing that Michael's methods and kind of instruction on how to do this is just such valuable information. And I think a lot of these points we all kind of know, like, yeah, we should be saying this, but really how, again, diving deeper into how do you actually create that content.
And
So we have that a workshop coming up where you're going to really train us over a couple of sessions
that's
to
right.
craft our stories and
And Brita, may I just say one thing before we talk about the workshop? There may be some of you who are listening right now who are not in the fashion industry. That's fine. What I want to explain to you, too, briefly, which is all these skills, this so-called MJ method of mine, the Michael Jordan method of mine, I apply now to all forms of strategic storytelling. For example, Brita, you mentioned earlier, the world's 17 sustainable development goals. All these companies and organizations are now under pressure to hit 2030 deadline, the deadlines in the year
Mhm.
2030, to show, to prove that they've achieved SDG number 1, SDG number 17, whatever it may be, water, health, children's rights, women's rights, et cetera, et cetera. And so I apply all this to what I call SDG storytelling. Okay.
Mm,
I did a training for JP Morgan Bank. Okay. And on what topic? On DEI storytelling. Okay. They have $1 billion program for Black and brown communities. They need to prove that they're not just throwing money at a problem, at a challenge, but that they're actually growing roots and doing having some positive long-term impact. So I call that DEI storytelling. Okay.
mm,
In this situation with fashion, I call it sustainability storytelling. Okay. Or ESG is another one, environmental social governance. Many companies, many organizations under pressure to prove that they've achieved ESG criteria. I call it ESG storytelling. Okay. So I apply all the same skills of strategic storytelling to all those forms. Okay. So I hope that any of you listening, that you don't feel alienated, like, well, I'm not into fashion, but to see
yeah.
the applicability to whatever you do. Okay.
Mhm. Excellent.
So go ahead with the workshop, the first slide, very briefly. We have
Is that the
working
correct?
with,
Yeah.
yes, that's one. Working with with Brita's Conscious Fashion Design Academy. Okay, we're launching our first workshop. Okay, which we've divided into 4 sessions, actually. Okay, as you see, there's a first session number 1, 90 minutes, which is why proving your impact matters, and it's packed with many of the skills and strategies, all that we've discussed today so far, and more. Okay, 90 minutes. Then session number 2, and just to let you know, this is not an abstract theoretical workshop. We're going to be focusing on content creation, where
You're
I'm going to
actually
be
gonna be writing, right?
yes, I'll be leading you by the hand. You don't have to be a writer, a professional, professional storyteller. All I need is that you're curious enough and even courageous enough to try. Okay, it's not rocket science, I
No.
promise. Okay, so first, again, reiterating, but also introducing more of these skills and strategies. Okay, then session number 2, at the end of session number 1, I'll talk to you about how to come up with ideas. Okay, so what sort of, again, whether it's you working by yourself or working with a team, think through our impact, think through evidence, how to draw it out, and then how to bring it to life. Okay, so session number 2 will then focus on producing your own strategic storytelling focuses on content creation. Okay. And in that session, by the end of that session, with each partner, with each participant, I will then craft an outline, a beginning, middle, and an end to lead you through like a shepherd leading his flock. Okay. I'll lead you step by step, because one thing I enjoy doing for students and trainees and all that is to demystify the process. Okay, when we began, it was a bit of a mystery. How do I create an impact story, an evidence-driven impact story? I want to remove the mystery by leading you step by step and empowering you with these skills. Okay, and so then by the end of that session, you will have an outline. Okay, and we'll have brainstorm for each of you. Okay, it'll be a nice, small, intimate group. Okay, we're aiming for 5 to 10 participants. All right, so it's nice and intimate on a first name basis where everyone's going to share what their challenge is and how to bring it to life. So you also benefit from listening to others. Okay, because it'll reinforce many of these messages and many of these skills. Okay, so then after session number 2, you'll go back home. Okay, and you will write your first draft. Okay, your best efforts. Okay, that's all I ask, your best possible efforts. Okay, then you email it to me. I will rigorously, robustly critique it, but gently. I don't call it criticizing. I prefer critique. Okay, to be constructively critiquing your story in written form. Okay, I'll go through and show you how to improve, where the holes are, where you need more evidence to prove something, where you need more details. Maybe you need an anecdote, whatever it may be, how to maybe you need to restructure. Okay, I'll show you how to improve it. But then session number 3, also 90 minutes, will be an oral critique. Okay, we will go around the room virtually. Okay, you will have the written critique, but then up on the screen, we'll show the group your first draft. We will discuss each story individually. Okay, and for the rest of you who'll be listening in, again, reinforcing the message. So it's not just you benefiting from your own story and being guided through your own piece of content, but then benefiting from listening to others as well. Okay, and it'll just keep hammering home certain key messages.
It's so helpful to get that feedback and bouncing ideas off of, more than just one person. So
that's right.
Yeah, that will really be good.
And then after session number 3, you'll have Michael's written critique and oral critique. You'll go back to your home or to your desk, and now you will improve. Okay, you will improve your rough draft into a second draft. It'll look much better by now, right? And then session number 4 will be just one-on-one, you and me. Okay, and over Zoom call, okay, 60 to 90 minutes, we will go through and we will polish it together. By the end of that session, it will be complete. Okay, it will be in publishable form, which then you can now upload to your LinkedIn page, for example, to your websites, to your PowerPoint or pitch decks. Okay, as an example. Okay, of course, as you know, earlier I said you would want at least 3 of these, but for this one, I want to demystify and lead you through the process. So now you know how to create one. So then from here, you'll have the foundation for how to create a couple more. Moving forward, you'll know how to add to that foundation of evidence-driven content. Okay,
continue to build on it. That's super valuable.
And you could show, by the way, Brita, if you want to show the second slide, I have in detail, I might as well put up on screen the takeaways from session 1. You see in more detail, strategic storytelling, as we discuss how to avoid the greenwashing accusation, consider your target audience, show, don't tell, 4-step formula, 4 types of content, which I didn't really talk about. Just briefly, I see 4 types of content. I only really focus on the impact story. Okay. There's also your own origin story, your story of inspiration, motivation, how and why you came to be where you are today, to even care about conscious fashion, ethical fashion, vegan fashion, whatever it may be. It's not your entire biography. I was born in a small town on a rainy night. No, it's all about your relevant storytelling. Okay, the relevant backstory, the how and why you began to care so much that now you've launched this product, this service. Okay. So that's the our story. And by the way, within that, that's also strategic because you're sharing not just your story of inspiration, motivation, you're sharing your values. Okay. You're showing the fact that you're sharing your competence, you're
Mhm.
sharing your trustworthiness, right? And your commitment, your dedication to see it through. There are other core messages within that
Mhm.
our story, which will then go on your website. Our story, that's your story as the founder and CEO, let's say, right? Then there's and the impact stories. Then I also mentioned the partner stories. If you feel like trustworthiness is something important, we want to bring to light our partners, why they trust us, why they are happy with us, because why? Because we're looking for more partners. Okay.
Mhm.
And of course, whenever two strangers meet, there's a wall of suspicion. Okay. If not a wall of skepticism. So the challenge is how to lower that wall of skepticism and to build a bridge of trust. Okay. So it may also benefit you and your organization to have a few partner stories, not just to list your partners
Mhm.
by name, but to tell the story strategically of that partnership. Okay. So that's another form. And then the fourth form of content I talk about is even with your LinkedIn posts. Okay, not just I just wrote something a couple of days ago. If you look at my LinkedIn post, my LinkedIn platform, I wrote about being here in Vegas for
Yeah.
a Chinese client. Why? Not just self-aggrandizing. Hey, look at me, aren't I wonderful? But I realized, hey, I'm here for media relations. I said that I do media relations. I need evidence to prove that
Mhm.
I do media relations. Okay, so I crafted 300 word posts. So then even that as an important piece of brand building content are these strategic LinkedIn posts, which you should republish on your website, your social media channels. Okay.
Mhm.
And then, like I said, where to start roadmap and then takeaways from session number 2. So that's all within the first 90 minutes, right? And then, as I said, session 2 focuses on the story, on your piece of content. So, what's the story? Identifying the most symbolic human stories, connecting the dots, turning a simple feature into a broader impact story, the fork in the road, the diamond storytelling structure. I will lead you through even how to write the story, how to organize your content, and then brainstorming an outline for you to follow and the path forward, strategizing other contents. We'll talk about other content. Like I said, in this workshop, one piece of content, whether it's an impact story or our story or a partner story, okay? Or you want to learn how to post on LinkedIn to not only build your brand, but maybe to develop your thought leadership. Okay.
Mhm.
Someone like Brita is on the front lines of conscious fashion. Okay. And so if she says, hey, thought fashion, I want to be seen as an opinion leader, right? So maybe working with you on your first piece on how to establish yourself as someone people turn to for your wisdom, your insights. Okay. That's a big topic nowadays is to develop your thought leadership. Okay. So that's something we can do as well. If that's whatever your preference is, I can lead you through the process. And then, like I said, session number 3 is the oral critique. Session 4 is the one-on-one coaching. Okay. What else, Britta?
Excellent. I personally am so looking forward to this, and I know that I need this myself for my own business, and so I feel very fortunate and excited about this upcoming workshop. And it is happening pretty soon. I was just pulling up my calendar to remind myself of the dates. January
Mm,
14th and 16th. So it's a Tuesday and a Thursday evening time for East Coast folks. And then the third one
mhm,
would be on the following Tuesday, January 21st. And then the
mhm,
one-on-one session, of course, you're going to schedule that individually,
mhm,
um,
mhm.
with you, Michael. And
Yes.
so
Mhm.
your
And I
insights.
guarantee, I guarantee you that you'll produce your first piece of publishable content. You have
Yeah.
my guarantee. You see that? My handshake is my word.
That is excellent. So, if folks are looking for more information, and if you have any questions, even just inquiries about the workshop or Michael's work or our work here at Inside Fashion Design, you can certainly send us a message through LinkedIn. I have put the mjmethod.com up on the
Oh, oh,
screen
oh,
here.
oh. Well, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. There's a mistake there. It's mjmethodcommunications.com.
Okay. And if
Sorry
you
about
go
that.
to
Yes.
LinkedIn,
Sorry.
that's probably
Yeah.
my bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you go to LinkedIn and look up Michael J. Jordan,
Don't forget the middle
you
initial, not to be
yes.
confused with the other one.
If you
Uh-huh.
Google the other one, you probably won't get the same same result.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But you can certainly anyone listening to this, now or in the future can reach either one of us. And we're both, I can speak for myself and Michael, I think is we want to support each other and provide tools and resources so that we can all make our own impact. And I think the fashion industry in the past has often felt very competitive, and a lot of people keep secrets to themselves because they don't want to share. And we want to be open and sharing and supportive of each other so that we can all make a difference. And so this is very exciting to me, and I'm happy to be collaborating with you on this. And so anyone
Likewise.
listening now or the recording, please reach out, share comments with us. Even if you popped in or you just listen to it, let us know your feedback. If you think we're missing something or have a question on how this works, anything really,
Yeah.
just shoot a note.
Absolutely.
So I also heard, I'll end on this. I heard from a little
Yes.
bird that it was your birthday on December 31st. Was it true?
Yes. Yes.
Well,
Yes.
happy belated birthday. My
Thank you.
sister was also born on December 31st, so we celebrated a couple days ago, and
Yes.
I had a
Yeah.
little birthday I had
Mm.
a little birthday, clip to pop on the screen, but now I can't figure out how to do it.
That's
So
I just turned 93. I'm looking pretty good for
oh,
93,
you
which
don't look a
is
day
nice.
over, 29.
Watch it. Watch it. All
I know,
right.
what
All right.
number? So thank you everyone
Yeah.
for your time and for watching, and truly appreciate it. And check out mjmethodcommunications.com and
Mhm.
insidefashiondesign.com. We have
Mhm.
lots of other courses that we're building out over the year. And so we just appreciate your showing up and helping guide us in our businesses and work of what you need and what value we can bring to you. So thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Michael. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you
My
on the next
pleasure.
one.
Excellent. Thank you for this opportunity. I better get back to my Chinese client.
Yes, go back to Vegas, and good luck on any slot machines.
Thank you. Thank you. All
Okay.
right.
Goodbye, all.
See you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.